welcome back our co-host. Sia is a former member of the House of Delegates, 26 years, Deputy Revenue Secretary, Vietnam War veteran, Mr. John Doyle.
Good morning, everybody.
He was a school teacher for 6 years. Now he just fusses around in Republican Party politics. Sam Allers Jr. Good morning, Sam.
Sam.
Mike. Where did Sam come from?
Sam Allers. I've never heard of him.
Mike Allers
my
Jr.
evil twin.
Sam. Oh, our next guest. That's where I got.
There
Sam
you go.
from.
Okay.
Oh, Mike Petsonk.
Sam Allers and Mike Petsonk. Let's bring them on, ladies and gentlemen. Sam, how are you, sir?
I'm all right, my friend. How are you?
Well, I'm just getting people's names incorrect, that's all. I've not recovered from the parachuting beavers story from the last half
It
hour.
was your story. You brought it up.
I know. It was amusing, though, don't you think? Just the visual on that one. Anyway, I'll catch up later on that one, Sam. Sam, where are you this morning?
I'm down here in Fayette County. You know, I have a law office, Fayette County, up in Morgantown. I cover a lot of ground with my law practice, but it's good to be with you guys here over the phone. I always appreciate your show, and it's great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you, Sam. What is your status now in the Democratic Party?
I am a representative of West Virginia on the Democratic National Committee. So I'm a Democratic National Committeeman, and I am also the second vice chair of the state Democratic Party. So I'm involved in a variety of capacities, helping to lead strategic planning, platform development, candidate recruitment, and things of that nature for us.
Former candidate for office in the state as well. And that's how we met Sam when he was running for office. I'm going to assume that you were there for Bernie Sanders' appearances around the state, Sam.
I was, I like a lot of people across West Virginia. I think Bernie Sanders is a reliable source of criticism and perspective about the problems with our economy. And so I was joining thousands of West Virginians in listening to his message, and I was glad to hear it and glad to see so much enthusiasm, so many independent people who have been upset with this system that has kept so many people poor and so few people with so much wealth. And he laid it on the line. He reminded people, Elon Musk, one person, is richer than over 52% of this whole country combined. And yet, meanwhile, we have 75% of households in West Virginia making less than $100,000 a year. 3/4 of West Virginia households make less than $100,000 a year, and we've got such obscene wealth in this country. So something's got to give, and I think a lot of people here agree with that.
Do you consider Bernie Sanders to be a Democrat and to have a Democratic Party-style message?
Oh, no. Bernie, one of his big messages there was the Democratic Party has put us in this position. He is a true independent in the old sort of northeastern sense. Jim Jeffords was an independent up there. There's a long streak of independents in rural states like Vermont, like West Virginia. I've always said West Virginians have never really been a partisan people. We're independent as a hog on ice. We're out here fighting for ourselves in the wilderness, and that's kind of similar to Vermont in a lot of ways. And that was Bernie's message. People, our places, our people are left behind. And right now you've got the big, beautiful bill giving $1 trillion in tax cuts to the richest 1% of Americans, while closing down hospitals and cutting off health care, cutting off jobs, and just decimating the economy in rural places like West Virginia. And it's wrong, and a lot of people share that concern here in our state.
Is it evil to be a billionaire, Sam?
Well, it's not evil, but what's at all, and everybody says, well, Bernie Sanders is making money. Well, the thing that's evil is to hoard all that wealth for yourself and refuse to invest in basic health care that keeps our economy and our people alive. I mean, that's the thing that I think is evil, and that's what a lot of people are saying, just you don't need hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, nobody needs that to be a trillionaire, and a lot of billionaires are in agree. I mean, look at Warren Buffett. He's given away all of his money. There's a lot of good-hearted billionaires around the world too. It's not, this is not about it's just about right and wrong and helping our society to thrive. I mean, think about this. 2/3 of the economy in America is driven by consumer spending. So in West Virginia, when we're going to have tens of thousands of people losing their health insurance starting in January, you will see a major immediate human health crisis. You'll see people dying from lack of health insurance. You'll also see an economic contraction because all of our people who have support in health care right now through the ACA and the private exchanges that are subsidized through the federal health care policy, those folks are going to lose every bit of disposable income that they have. When you lose health care, you've got to pay for your own health care. That means squandering billions of dollars of wealth that our working people have built up in West Virginia over the years, and it damages our whole economy. And that's why it's such a reckless and dangerous idea, to cut off health care for millions of Americans.
You mentioned Elon Musk, so we'll stay on him for a second there. And you said he doesn't invest in healthcare. You saying that he doesn't offer healthcare for his employees at Tesla or SpaceX or something like that?
I don't know what he offers. I know he's fought the union tooth and nail, and it used to be when we had unions more prevalent in this country that you could get good health care in the private sector. But I've represented a lot of West Virginia workers who lost their union jobs, who tried to organize or were duped out of the opportunity to have a union. And with the degradation, there used to be up in Martinsburg, you had the old Ford factory. You had real union jobs. United Auto Workers brought health insurance to the Eastern Panhandle because they were good union jobs. And that was the American standard. That is, in my opinion, that is what made America great for so many years. And we've lost that. We've busted unions. We've changed the laws, so it's extremely difficult to organize a union in America now. And so we've lost, like Tesla, big non-union company. You can't rely on the private sector to deliver health care, without some sort of collective demand for it. And that's what I think a lot of independents and certainly the Democratic Party wants to see, a collective demand. We've got to provide health care for our people. Our economy requires it. Our people require it. It's just the sensible thing to do. I'm
going to go to Mike Allers Jr. first on this one.
Sure. So Sam, hi.
Hey.
Question. Few of them, actually. So, I'm a Republican on the populist spectrum. We could agree, I think, on a lot of things when it comes to union and kind of working class values, especially in the state of West Virginia. However, one thing that Bernie does say is that the Democrats are too focused on kind of nitpicking. The Republicans used to be like this too, I would argue, before Trump. You had to adhere to one orthodoxy. You couldn't stray from that. There couldn't be different flavors. West Virginia, as you know, is a culturally conservative state, but it might be more economically populist. Now, Bernie Sanders said in states like Vermont and states like West Virginia, the Democrats would be smart if they, pick somebody who might be economically progressive, but socially conservative on the issue of life and maybe open to guns and coal. Where do you stand on that issue when it comes to your candidate recruitment? Because nationally, the Democrats, I would argue, are dragging you down in the state.
Well, I think that the Democrats have been a lifeline to West Virginia. The Democrats are the reason that we're getting broadband, that we're getting factories here. The Republicans are the ones that are destroying jobs in West Virginia, including in the coal business through Trump's reckless trade war. That has absolutely ruined the West Virginia coal industry. But I hear your point, and I agree with you that we are a party that thrives on democracy, and we need that open debate. That's why we call ourselves the Democratic Party. And right now in West Virginia, Mike, as I'm sure you're aware, the Republican Party has said we want to pick our own people. They will not let you vote in the Republican primary next year unless you are registered as a Republican. And just the opposite for Democrats. Democrats want independent voices to come and vote in our primary. We want independent-minded people participating in the Democratic Party. We've always been that way. And so we pride ourselves as Democrats not on driving our message from the top down, but on being an open forum for the debate of the best ideas to take our society forward. And we really invite independents to participate in the Democratic primary elections. We'll have a lot of exciting primaries. Of course, you have the Masters fiasco up there right now. There's GOP is in a shambles up in the Eastern Panhandle, and we'll have some dynamic candidates in there running against Masters. Hopefully we can get a good Democratic primary going there. We want people to sort their differences out in the primary, and then as a party, we carry forward the preferences of our people into the general election. So, I agree with you. We need to have a vigorous debate, and we really welcome that as Democrats.
Do you think, as a follow-up, do you think, though, that it is a branding issue? You said that, for example, I am aware that Biden, working in a bipartisan fashion with Shelley Moore Capito, delivered, broadband, things like that. But when it comes to owning those issues, there seems to be, I guess, on a national level, there's still a perspective of, and you may be different as a West Virginia Democrat, right? But on the national level, there is kind of a condescension that I believe West Virginians feel. No matter what you say they're doing for them, they still culturally, from a national level, look down on West Virginians. So how do you kind of fight that? Because if you're saying you're welcoming independents into your primary, that's great, but you also need it because your numbers are down. So how do you get your numbers back up amongst working class Americans who don't seem to trust Democrats at the moment?
Yeah, well, voter registration is still split about three ways, roughly, in West Virginia. And a lot of people have left the Democratic registration to become independents over the last couple of decades, and they will continue to be able to participate in Democratic Party primaries. I think that what we need to do, man, is just keep reminding people about what Democrats have delivered. Health care for tens of thousands of our citizens, broadband infrastructure, jobs across West Virginia. These are Democratic achievements, and that's what the Democratic Party stands for, equal opportunity for every person, every place in this country. And, there's no silver bullet for how we achieve that as a party, and that's why we want open debate, and we want to make the best ideas come forward. And I'm really looking forward to these Democratic primaries this year, where a lot of independent voices will be brought to bear on how we continue bearing the standard for the Democratic, Party and the Democratic vision for West Virginia.
John Doyle.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Sam.
Hi. You're Sam. This is Sam sitting next to me. I keep forgetting.
It goes back to the beaver drop.
Yeah, right. Hi, Sam, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
If I might be permitted, folks, to get a little bit philosophical here, and it's from basically, Sam, what you said in your intro. I do see the country now, in terms of sociologically and economically, becoming very much like it was during the Gilded Age. The big differences between the amount of money those at the top have and the amount of money those at the bottom have, and the hollowing out of a middle class. We don't have as much of a middle class now as we did 30 years ago. It is very similar to what it was in the 1920s, the so-called Roaring Twenties. And I think we recall what happened then. The combination, this is my opinion now, the combination of that great separation of wealth from the way upper class to the lower class, and the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, the high tariffs of the early 1930s in the Hoover administration, produced the Great Depression. And I think if we're not careful, we're on our way there again. So I do think, Sam, that what you talked about at the beginning is important for us to consider. Now, we can differ if we want on the specifics of this, but I do think that it's we got to watch out where we're going, because we're not in a good place sociologically in this country right now.
Well, I agree with you, John. And Mike, I want to say it's important to embrace the fact that, as Bernie Sanders said, the Democratic Party, didn't lose America, well, in fact, they walked away from it. And I think we need to say, and I say as a Democrat, the Democratic Party has not done enough to deliver results for America. They've not done enough, but they have laid a foundation. And just to answer your question specifically, what I want to focus on, I'd like to ask each of you guys to imagine the 60,000 West Virginians right now who have health care subsidies through the Affordable Care Act. These are, by and large, these are people in their 50s or early 60s who are not yet eligible for Medicare, who are receiving subsidized health care. Maybe they retired early from a non-union job with no retirement health care, and they are living comfortably today because of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. On January 1st of 2026, those 60,000 people will lose those subsidies. The vast majority of them will thereafter, starting in a few months, they will face $30,000 to $40,000 of annual premiums, of annual medical costs, just to purchase unsubsidized health care as 50 or 60-year-old West Virginians. These are crippling costs. So, that are going to decimate our working class wealth and our economy. It's going to eliminate consumer spending. It's going to drive tens of thousands of middle class households into poverty. So the Democratic Party has not done enough. And I think you make a good point, Mike. We've got to do more. The way to rebrand is by doing better. But there's still time for Congress to rethink this big, beautiful bill and cap what we call Capito Care, which is going to absolutely crush the working class in this state. And if the Democratic Party can stand for something and deliver something, it should be a demand that Senator Capito and Jim Justice quit robbing health care from our families and quit decimating our economy and reverse these cuts in the big, beautiful bill before 60,000 West Virginians really suffer. It's just unconscionable.
I was told when they were debating this bill that this came from every Republican who could speak, that the only people were going to have a problem with this bill were those who were healthy but refused to work and were taking money from the taxpayers by accepting Medicaid. You mean that wasn't true?
That's totally false, unfortunately.
I believe they sound so earnest when they said it.
Yeah. They're good at that. I mean, look, everybody knows. Look at Jim Justice. He's been snookering employees out of health care for years. I mean, it's a well documented. These people have made billions by stealing health care from the working class and stealing wealth by duping people into working for them without adequate compensation. And that's exactly what happened with the big, beautiful bill. They make it sound like it's a great thing, but the reality is if you receive health insurance or subsidies through the Affordable Care Act, you're going to lose, and about 60,000 West Virginians are going to lose those subsidies starting in January. And that's because the big, beautiful bill is eliminating those subsidies.
Sam,
Yeah.
if I may push back on this, I will say, look, West Virginia, we could agree, Republican or Democrat, our state's been kept poor, I would argue, intentionally for a very, very long time. But, the Democrats did have control of the state.
80 years.
But, 80 years. What is your vision? Like, how do you... Look, Republicans are not perfect either. As a Republican, I will admit that. But at the same time, within those 80 years, even though unions were more prevalent in our state, we weren't wealthier as a whole, and our working class still struggled, and our education system still struggled. So if the Democrats have the answers, where were they over the past 80 years, or is it time for a new playbook from your perspective?
Well, I definitely think it's time for a new playbook. I think back in the 60s and the 70s, the Democratic Party was doing well, and the working class did a lot better. They did better in the 60s and the 70s, largely because of health care and broad unionization. That changed in the 90s. You saw new leadership take over the Democratic Party, and, hey, I've only been involved for 2 years. I got involved in the Democratic Party because of its failures, because of its the Democratic Party privatized workers' compensation, absolutely crippled the working class for many years in West Virginia. So they went wrong, and that's part of why young folks and independent voters need to get involved in the Democratic Party, and they are, and there will be good change as a result of that. Hey, but the idea idea that the Republicans are doing better for West Virginia, Mike, I mean, that you just can't make that argument. Did you see today or yesterday they put out the fastest growing business in the state of West Virginia? Did you see that report? I think it was on WVVA. Did you know what the fastest growing business was?
What was it?
Social Security disability application.
Yeah, no, it's 100% shameful because look, I'm originally from New York. I lived in Virginia. When I moved to West Virginia, I was shocked of the anti kind of business attitude in not growing businesses. So it's definitely something I think both parties should work on, is becoming more business friendly.
Mr. Doyle, quickly.
Yeah, I wanted to add, Sam, on your indictment of my party and your party. I do think that what happened is, beginning about 30 years ago, the philosophical center of the Democratic Party began to shift. And the Democratic Party, over a period of time, abandoned blue-collar people and rural people. And the voices of the National Democratic Party now are, for the most part, come from big city council chambers and faculty lounges. And that's why West Virginia stopped being Democratic. There are portions of other states that happened, but we're the one where it's the whole state that it happened.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Sam Petsonk, always good to speak with you. Appreciate your time this morning, sir.
Thank you, Rob. Same here. Take care.